Here are the practical top 5 ways to increase your Meshtastic device's range. The range is for both transmit and receive. This is realistic. I'm not going to say you need to stand up. When I started the research for this, I kid you not, one of the top 5 things to help boost the range of your radio, according to the internet, the bottom one, stand up. Stand up as I'm not going to tell you to stand up. That's the stupidest thing I've heard in a long time. Alright, right off the rip. Change the LoRa config value for modem. What is this? Alright, at the good old Meshtastic.com. At the start page for Meshtastic, I have so much crap up here, don't even look up there. We're going to slap that get started button. We're slapping the get started button. Configuration, the left side menu. Radio configuration. LoRa. Slide down. Here's the different configuration values. Modem. The default is long and fast. And I do want to point out that the devices have a max number of hops. Max number of hops is 7. So if you have 7 radios, you're good. But the default is 3. So if you're trying to go from your base station to more than 3 radios away to get that nice long range, you need to make sure you're changing the max hops value in the configurations. I'll show you later in the video on how to get to that. I'll put a little timestamp here for that. The default is long fast. That's about right here in the middle. That is the 5th slowest, but it also gives you semi-decent range. Now the slowest is very long slow. This is the slowest, lowest broad width, highest airtime, longest range. It's not recommended for regular use, and the Meshtastic really can't handle it well and it's unreliable. But changing this configuration to long moderate or long slow, I'd probably just go with long moderate, will get you some extra range consistently and reliably. And we have a chart that shows you that range. Alright, here is the chart I was talking about. So the default is long fast, number 5. That transmits at a 1.07 kbps per second, kilobytes per second. To give you an idea of how fast that is, most modern internet today is in the hundreds of megabytes a second. So KBS is pretty slow considering how people are just, the attention span's not there. So even with the long fast, you're going to be waiting 15 to probably 60 seconds depending on the range for some of these messages. The link budget is 153 dB, and that's decibels. That is your power gains and losses. If you get nothing else from this video, the higher the link budget, the more power is behind that transmission. Alright, changing the LoRa config value for modem. We're going to go to meshtastic.org on our, I don't want to say trusty, it's not trusty, working Microsoft Edge, because Meshtastic is very picky when it comes to web browsers. We're going to go to get started and then initial configuration.
web application, sorry, web client. New connection, serial. I did not plug my device in. Whoops. Alright, the device is now plugged in. We want to go to config. To change the config value for modem, we want to scroll down to, or not scroll, mouse over to LoRa. By the way, here is that hop limit. So if you have more than 3 radios and want to go farther, you need to increase the hop limit, which has a maximum number of 7. We're going to scroll on down to waveform settings. And here is the modem preset. Now, to get a little extra range, we're going to send more data, which is the long moderate. And you just hit the save button in the top right corner to save those changes. Now the save button doesn't look like anything changed, but if I were to tab out of here, tab back to config, go back to LoRa, scroll on down, look at that configuration LoRa saved like a billion times. There it is, long, moderate. Which it actually, fun fact, when you change this modem preset, it actually reboots the device. So there's a little caveat there. When you make changes to the radio configuration, at least for this change, it will reboot your device.
Now the link budget used by these calculators assumes a transmit power of 22 dBm. That comes into our second point. Up the wattage on your radio if possible. Most Meshtastic devices can only go up to 22 dBms. Alright, at everythingrf.com they have a ton of calculators. I mean, they have calculators out the wazoo. That is only 0.1585 of a watt. Keeping in mind, 1 watt of power equals about 1 mile in range if you have optimal conditions. And those who want to know the math, what on earth is this garbage? And those that want to know the math for this, here is the formula you use to convert dBm to watts. dBm is a decimal unit for measuring power. dBm is decibel milliwatt. It is a signal strength or power level. You're probably thinking, well, how does he know what the default decimals per milliwatt is on these radios? There's a great thing called the device list at Meshtastic hardware devices. You can see all the different devices and, most importantly, the chips they use for radio. The T-Beam Supreme, T-Beam Core, the T-Beam with M8N, the T-Echo, the LoRa T3S3 version 1, the T-Deck, the T-Watch, a lot of the Heltec LoRa radios. The vast majority of Meshtastic radios use SX1262. And if you look up the XX1262, you will see 22 decibels per milliwatt. Yada 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 yada. Bottom of the first paragraph. The XX1262 can transmit up to plus 22 dBms with highly effective integrated power amplifiers. That is 0.1585, I believe, if I remember right, of a watt. Reminding you that 1 full watt equals about a mile of range, in optimal conditions. You can up the wattage on your radio through the Python CLI.
Just because the radio can go up to 22 dBm does not mean it's set for that. A lot of people, especially in 2022 apparently, had issues with their radios not reaching 22 dBm, though the radio said it could go to 22 dBm. A lot of them were set to 17. This process is a bit infuriating because nowhere, to find the wattage of a T-Echo was not easy. Yes. If you go to the GitHub, where Liligo T-Echo main GitHub is, if you go to their README, and you scroll all the way down, scroll down, all this nonsense. Here in the announcements, it lets you know that the power is set to 10. However, what made me upset the most was finding how to not only read, but to adjust the power level on a Meshtastic device. If you go to the people who make the Station G2's website, you can see Meshtastic commands to set the power of your radio. And what makes me upset about this is that it's not the Meshtastic webpage, and they're probably not intentionally hiding it. They could have just forgotten about it. Maybe it was outdated. I don't know. But I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of not knowing. This what I would deem necessary prompt isn't listed anywhere because my radio is attached. And I'm going to execute the following command to see what my radio is set to. Well, would you look at that? These commands work. And my T-Echo is set to 30. Now, I need to remind you, though my radio is set to 30, my chip cannot actually go to 30. And to show that you can just straight up change how strong the stuff is, we can go set LoRa.tx_power to, let's say, 22. It connected to my radio and set it. Writing modified preferences to device now. So these commands, and my device is rebooting right now, these commands work. Like, maybe the newer models just have it set to the max by default, you know? I don't know. I don't know everything. I'm just trying to help the end user get a little more out of their device. The SX1262 cannot go over 22 dBm without an amplifier, which is what the Station G2 offers. Plain and simple. Now, if you know how to add an amplifier to your device, just make sure it is within that legal limit of 1 watt of power.
Number 3, place your radio or antenna as high as possible. It's still better than me telling you to stand up. I still can't believe they said just stand up. This may come into a shock, but antennas do, for the most part, point their signals in a direction. The higher the antenna, usually the better. There is an optimal height chart calculation you can do back out of effectiverf.com. They actually have a calculator to know how high to put your antenna based on the type of antenna you have. Oh, let me back up a bit. So once again, everything rf.com has a line of sight calculator letting you know how high to put your antenna. Again, that was everythingrf.com. I'll probably put a lot of these links either as text in the video. Because I do not have 100 subscribers, YouTube will not allow me to post links in my descriptions until I get 100 subscribers. I kid you not, it is the dumbest thing I've seen and heard of. So until I get 100, I'm just gonna keep putting the links in as text or something. So step 4, to get more range out of your device, upgrade your antenna. The standard antenna for the T-Echo and for most devices is 0.5 dBi antenna, which is decimals by isotropes, which is a measurement of antenna gain. What does that mean? Somebody smarter than me knows. But according to this chart, the higher dBi antennas provide better coverage for communication with devices suited at a longer distance. Some examples would include within the same region, municipality, country, or even the outskirts of a metropolis. Lower dBi antennas provide better coverage for communications with devices situated at a shorter distance. Buildings, city, neighborhood, town, village. You get it. The higher the DPI, the more effective that antenna is focusing that signal. Remind you, the 3 dBi antennas go in a 360 radius. It's just searching everywhere. That's why it's not very strong. It's not going to go very far. And that's what the standard antenna is for a lot of these Meshtastic devices. It's more like 3 houses away. If you want more than a 3-house range, you need to get a 5 dBi antenna or higher, or as close to as 5 as you can. Now the 7, 8s, and 9s and 10s, those would be huge antennas for like base stations. When I mean huge, I mean 3.5 feet, 3.6 feet technically long. But again, this 8 dBi gain antenna is going to massively increase your signal coverage. 0.3 and 0.4 taken care of. Number 5. I like how high I have in order from cheap and practical to expensive and unrealistic. This is actually a joke. Like, don't shoot me on this one. This is a joke. I like to have fun here. But honestly, up these last 2 can be expensive. But point number 5, buy a stronger radio. As we said earlier, the highest dBm for the majority of Meshtastic devices is 22, which is 0.1585 of a watt. There are Meshtastic devices such as the Station G2. Now, the Station G1 is listed at Meshtastic at hardware devices Station G1. Bam, bam, thank you, ma'am. Is marketed to the hammies or ham licensed operators because it can go to 35 dBm. 35 dBm, really high. 35 dBm is 3.1623 watts, which is great if you're allowed to use that. The FCC does not allow these devices to use more than 1 watt of power unless you have a ham radio license. I kid you not. Those who are not licensed can easily and legally get to that 1 watt of power. And like we said earlier, 1 watt is, in optimal conditions, is 1 mile of range, which is a lot further than our 0.15 wattage. Upgrading your Meshtastic, buying a stronger Meshtastic device will definitely increase your range. That's just how that works. You got more power, You have a stronger receiver and sender, transmitter, whatever. And your options are kind of limited.
I had to switch microphones. My other one just completely died, so it's going to be horrible quality the rest of the video. Nice. What are we talking about? Oh yeah, buying a better radio. And the best option is the Station G2 device, because the Station G1 has been outdated. The reason why I say the Station G2 is not only your basically only choice to get a stronger Meshtastic device, but it's the best choice for the price. It's about $109. The Station G2 is built with licensed ham radio users in mind. However, there's a caveat to that deliciousness. By default, they have to make it the legal limit of those who do not have a ham radio license. So, out of the box, the Station G2 for the US, the default setting is at 10 dBm. With the amplifier built in, brings it to 30 dBm or 1 watt, which is legal for all non-licensed radio operators on the 915 Hz frequency. Station G2 will get you more range than your other radios. Now, if you slap a proper antenna on the G2, which it comes with, if I remember right, a decent antenna. It's not great, it's not bad, it's decent. Better than the T-Echo, or which, it's not hard to do. So again, you can find the G2 device on Tindie.com. You can find out their official store. It's just out of stock. Oh, they do have the updates here. Okay. I feel like this was gatekeeped because I didn't really hear about the Station G2. It's not on the Meshtastic webpage. And the ability to change power levels is also not on the Meshtastic site anymore. I only found it on the unit engineering site for the Station G2 actually. So that was interesting. So Station G2, stronger Meshtastic device, comes with a better antenna than the T-Echo. Because it has a built-in amplifier, it's just better. It's better in every way, shape, and form. If you want more range, Station G2. If you know how to attach an amplifier to your T-Beam, T-Echo, whatever, that could have the same kind of gains as the Station G2. Thank you so much for watching this video. That was the top 5 ways to increase your Meshtastic device's range. As always, if you're having an IT issue, or even at this point a Meshtastic radio issue, I am gaining more confidence in my ability to help you. So, feel free to comment any IT issue, and I'll see what I can do. Stay healthy, don't die. Catch you in the next video.